Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare 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 Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare, Ajatraya Prabhupada Prabhupada
Om Namo Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th Canto, Chapter 5, verse 14.
Did you say text
15.
14? Prabhu? I
Is
think
it
we did
15,
14.
Thakur?
I think we did 14 yesterday.
Okay, very good one. In any case. Oh yes, 15, sorry. Ganga Brahmshita Ishwaryam Samsarantam Kubharyavat Tadgatir Abudhasyeha Tadgatir Abudhasyeha Kimasat Karma Bhirbhave Atsanga Brahmshita Ishwaryam Samsarantam Kubharyavat Tadgatir Abudhasyeha Imasat Karma Bhirbhavet Tatsanga Brahmshitaishwaryam Samsarantam Kubharyavat Tadgatir Abudhasyeha Imasat Karma Bhirbhavet Tatsanga Brahmshitaishwaryam Samsarantam Kubharyavat Tadgatira Buddhasya Kimasat Karma Bhirbhavet. Tatsanga Brahmshitashwaryam Samsarantam Kubharyavat Tadgatira Buddhasya Kimasat Karma Bhirbhavet. Satsanga Brahmshita Ishwaryam Samsarantam Kubharyavat Adgatira Budhyaseham Imasat Karma Bhir Bhavet Tatsanga Brahmshita Ishwaryam Samsarantam Kubharyavat Adgatira Budhyaseham Kimasat Karma Bhir Bhavet. Right. Online audience, we had 4 people reciting verses, so just for information. Word to word. Tatsanga, by association with a prostitute of intelligence. Brahmshita, taken away. Aishwaryam, the opulence of independence. Samsarantam, undergoing the material way of life. Bharyavat, exactly like a person who has a polluted wife. Adgati, the movements of the polluted intelligence. Abudhasya, of one who does not know. Iha, in this world. Kim asat karmabhi bhavet. What can be the benefit of performing temporary fruitive activities? Translation. Narada Muni had also spoken of a man who is the husband of the prostitute. The Haryashvas understood this as follows. If one becomes the husband of a prostitute, he loses all independence. Similarly, if a living entity has polluted intelligence, he prolongs his materialistic life. Frustrated by material nature, he must follow the movements of the intelligence, which brings various conditions of happiness and distress. If one performs fruitive activities under such conditions, what will be the benefit? Polluted intelligence has been compared to a prostitute. One who has not purified his intelligence is said to be controlled by that prostitute. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 2:41, Vyasayatmika buddhirakaha kurunandana. Those who are actually serious are conducted by one kind of intelligence, namely intelligence in Krishna consciousness. Vausakha hi anantascha udayo vyavasainam. One who is not fixed in proper intelligence discovers many modes of life. Thus involved in material activities, he is exposed to the different modes of material nature and subjected to varieties of so-called happiness and distress. If a man becomes the husband of a prostitute, he cannot be happy. And similarly, one who follows the dictations of material intelligence and material consciousness will never be happy. One must judiciously understand the activities of material nature. How do you pronounce that? Judiciously? Judiciously. Okay, sorry. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 3:27, Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. The bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of the 3 modes of material nature, thinks himself to be the doer of activities which are inactually carried out by nature. Although one follows the dictations of material nature, he happily thinks himself the master or husband of material nature. Scientists, for example, try to be the masters of material nature, life after life, not caring to understand the Supreme Person, under whose direction everything within this material world is moving. Trying to be the masters of material nature, they are imitation gods who declare to the public that scientific advancement will one day be able to avoid the so-called control of God. In fact, however, the living being, unable to control the rulings of God, is forced to associate with the prostitute of polluted intelligence and accept various material bodies, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 13:22. Purusha prakritisto hi bhunkte prakriti jangunan karanam gunasangasya sadasatyoni janmasu. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with the material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil amongst various species. If one fully engages in temporary fruitive activities and does not solve this real problem, what profit will he gain? Tatsanga brahmshithaishwaryam samsarantam kubharyavat tadgatirabudhatasya kimasat karmagit bhavet. Narada Muni had also spoken of a man who is the husband of the prostitute. The Haryashvas understood this as follows. If one becomes the husband of a prostitute, he loses all independence. Similarly, if a living entity has polluted intelligence, he prolongs his materialistic life. Frustrated by material nature, he must follow the movements of the intelligence, which brings various conditions of happiness and distress. If one performs fruitive activities under such condition, what will be their benefit? Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyanandana Shalakaya Chakshurunamitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swaya Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Swapanantikam Jai Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jayapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Kuripriya Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvacha Patitanam Pavadebhyo Vaishnavya Namo Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasani Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Drishnarine. In the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there's a verse number 70, I think. And I proclaim that those who study this sacred dialogue of ours will worship me with the intellect, the sacrifice of knowledge. Actually, this is not the. Hold on a second. I got into someone else's translation. Jack, can you post the right one? Okay. I just remember the words "worship me with the intelligence." Just a second. Let's put it correctly. 1870 metabase. Help me. Okay. And I declare that he who studies the sacred conversation of ours worship me by his intelligence. So, where do we get the right intelligence? That is the question. The intelligence, purified intellect is coming from studying Shastra. Vishnaprayeshva Bhadreshu, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. So, not only we have to study it regularly or daily, then everything unfavorable about journey will be cleansed from our hearts, as we will associate with the right source of the intelligence. Because buddhi, tasham satata yuktanam bhajanti pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayantite. Intelligence that is given by Krishna to us is a reciprocation of our devotional service to him. The more pretty, the more loving exchange we put in our service to him, the more intelligence he will give us how to get to him, how to attain him. How did little Narada Muni, 5 years old? So now he's giving those instructions to Haryashvas. But in the previous birth, the previous millennium, previous day of Brahma, he was a little boy, just a simple servant of his mother. And being a simple servant, he never even traveled anywhere. He just was in this little village where he happened to have sages, munis come, bhaktas, Bhaktivedantas. The Vedantas came to his house and they served with his mother to them. So just by doing this service, and it says he had a good character, he was very obedient, he didn't talk much, he tried to listen, and he got attached to the conversations they had, and he served them as well, the meals, etc., cleansed after them, and he had some Mahaprasad. And that service for 4 months developed such an attachment to Harikatha that even though this horrible thing happened, that his mother was bitten by a snake and died immediately, and she was the only shelter of his, it says she bound him by love. That's how strong the connection was. Just through that hearing for 4 months, he was able to understand, okay, I'm taken in this mercy of God, and I'm going up north to find God in the Himalayas or somewhere near Himalayas, as all sages do. He never even traveled out of the village. How fearless he must have become. So he has a personal realization of Nivriti Mark. He didn't, even though he passed through all those cities, towns, parks, and very beautiful, but also scary places like woods and scary ferocious animals and snakes, etc. So you've seen it all, but he didn't get attracted in those mines or parks and towns. He could have started a job, little boy, somebody could be merciful to him, he could become a servant of somebody again. But he didn't. So he didn't want to do a Pravriti mark, the regulative ascending path through fruitive activity that you get certain fruits, but you do it in a regulative, proper way and gradually elevating your consciousness, sort of like karma kanda activity. No, he developed attachment to bhakti. He developed attachment to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That became his only shelter. Savadharman parityaja mamikam sharanam. He got that understanding from those sages, and he was determined, as it's quoted in this purport in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, Kaha Kurunandana Vyasa Pikabudhira Kaha Kurunandana. I'm very resolute in my purpose, what I'm actually trying to achieve here. And he did. He came to those wonderful places, sat down near the river, Saraswati or somewhere, in a secluded place, got into trance, meditation, got darshan of the Lord, and then the Lord disappeared. And then he spoke to him, shed another mercy, and then he attained this bhava level that only developed to the prema from that point onwards. And now, with having that realization, he starts his whole Srimad Bhagavatam by explaining that realization to Srila Vyasadeva. He explains to him that, you want to hear my realization? I'll tell you my realization. My realization, don't give to these people all of those confusion Vedas. You're not satisfied because exactly that you created so many branched divisions of Vedas, people will just get confused. Speak only of the pure devotional service to the Lord. that will satisfy people, that will set them on a clear path. You will feel satisfied because you'll please Vaishnavas, because you speak of your devotional service and about the Lord. And, that we will broadcast. Me personally, and you also, we'll do it. I continue traveling, broadcasting it, playing my Veena, playing without any restrictions. You continue through the writing. And of course, that writing was not just writing. Srila Vyasadeva, same thing. He got into trance. And then in the trance, he saw the pastimes of the Lord. Even though Narada Muni's instruction was write about the pastimes of the Lord. Before writing, he had to see the pastimes of the Lord to write them. So he got into trance, and then he saw. That's the meaning of Rishi. Rishi means the one who sees. He receives darshan. And Srila Vyasadeva has written down what he's actually experiencing also by seeing. As we say in Bhagavad Gita, Tadvidhi pranipatana pariprashnam save uparidakshinteganam jnaninas tattva darshinaha. We serve the spiritual master. We inquire from him submissively. We, render menial service. We pay obeisances. We ask questions because he saw the absolute truth. He's far more advanced than we are. He can, because he has seen the absolute truth, Tattva Darshana, he receives this jnana, realization, he can bestow it onto us, into our hearts. That's how the process of Guru Parampara works. And now, Narada Muni is doing this to is it second batch or first batch? First batch, okay. The first batch of sons of Daksha is convincing them. Why would you do, why wasting time? You just did so much austerity, and austerity means piety. Don't, waste it to that, fortune. I mean, you have a higher taste now. So just continue and you'll be off from here. Why to entangle? Because he is convinced, he has got realization of Nivritti Mark. Everybody speaks from their realization. If my highest realization is I, give 10% of my income to God and I feel happy about that, then, I receive something, my work is going nicely after that, I'll be sharing that realization. And, it's nice, it's pious. Prabhupada says no, 50% minimum for grihastas. Minimum. Follow the footsteps of Sad Goswamis. And in the spare time, fully engage in devotional service. And then Raghunath Das Goswami says even higher example, exactly in the footsteps of Narada Muni. His family, they are devotees. They host in Vaishnavas. They having constant bhajans in their homes. They host in not just ordinary Vaishnavas, Haridas Thakur, Advaita Acharya, concerts of the Lord, the most dear devotees of his. They feed in brahmanas, they distribute in wealth and all, so many things. Raghunath does not satisfy. Has to go to Lord Chaitanya, fully surrender, live very renounced, and then what happens? And then he opens Srimad Bhagavatam, just hears the verse and cries profusely. All the letters get washed out by his tears. What is he reading? Inconceivable. Bhagavatam is in his head, all 18,000 verses. And he's in pools of ecstasy. Most highest, topmost highest ecstasy, love and separation. If you follow the development or evolution of devotion, you'll see how it develops through neutral to servitorship to friendship to parenthood and then to mellow, so conjugal love, and then conjugal love culminates in that separation, and that separation culminates in manjaris and sakis experiencing pain, that Radha is feeling pain even more than she does, but that pain is mixed with bliss, obviously. But it's just inconceivable, that peak, highest peak of that emotion, which is in our Guru Parampara, which Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches us by his personal example, of course, experiencing it also. And Raghunath Goswami is after that, fully. So, even though it's inconceivable, something that, we're just trying to chant our runs and tend to without looking in the phone and things like that. But we have to understand where it's all leading us to. And with respect, we are hearing the glories of Narada Muni, how he continues his preaching work while Vyasadeva continues his preaching work. They're both doing the same thing. And Vyasadeva registers those pastimes also, because he knows his spiritual, he has to glorify his spiritual master after all. He gave him that vijnana. I mean, Vyasadeva is the incarnation of the Lord. At the same time, he's not exactly the Lord, he's just empowered Shakti Vaishavatar. He's Jiva that is empowered with certain potencies of the Lord. Still, he's so powerful that he could have even written that himself, yet they always show us this example of relationship, disciple and spiritual master relationship. And so Vyasadeva is happily including those stories, pastimes in Srimad Bhagavatam, glorifying his spiritual master on so many occasions. There's so many stories with Narada Muni in Srimad Bhagavatam, how he intervenes, what he does, how he changes the hearts, because he's empowered by the Lord to do that. Out of all the demigods, in Bhagavad Gita it says, out of all the rishis among demigods, I am Narada Muni, right? I'm Deva Rishi Narada. It's a very special position that he has. Time 40 minutes. Yes, so, and of course, impure intelligence, this is the worst thing that can happen to us. One thing is we get cracked, it depends how far the virus goes in a computer in order to fix it. If it goes just to attack your first layer, kind of the software program, you can plug an antivirus and fix it. Once it gets into corrupting the BIOS or something like that, which is kind of an intelligence of a computer, that's it. You may be doomed unless you have a sure start HP or something like that that can copy the reserved copy of what was previously and just get the corrupted version. Unless there's like a higher system that can mimic, like a guru who can like divert you and remind you what's your goal. It's almost impossible to fix from that point. So without senses, it's the same thing. It says in Bhagavad Gita, when one uncontrolled sense can get you off the track, and mind is considered the sixth sense, but also the most ferocious one in one sense, because once the idea starts in the mind, be very like resistant, and once it convinced the intelligence, once the intelligence is convinced, that's it. One is not hearing, he's not able to hear. He's like blocked. He's convinced of certain ideas, even though he's reading it black and white in Bhagavad Gita and Shastra, hearing it from even his spiritual master. He's not hearing it. And this is amazing how mind works like that. I was personally witnessing this. I guess I was also personally experiencing this as a conditioned soul. Same thing when I was just blind, seeing, not hearing what I was reading. But when I was translating darshans with my spiritual master and his disciples, I was sometimes amazed. I'm translating, I'm hearing the right thing. They getting out of the door and they saying the absolute opposite thing. Some disciple asked, so what did Gurudev told you? Oh, he told me that and I proved that. I said, hold on a second. He just said the opposite thing. And I was translating correctly. It's not it wasn't that translation. What do you mean? It's amazing. This is how, yes. So, and also this desire of somehow getting adjusted here in this material world so that, we can continue this life after life after life. Once Srila Prabhupada's disciple asked Prabhupada, how can I, practice Krishna consciousness? I don't remember exactly how he phrased the question, but I do remember the answer. Prabhupada said, you're asking me this 700th life already. It's a 700th lifetime that you're asking me that question. Same question. How to practice bhakti so that you're not discomforted or inconvenient here and you can. So basically, again, the question was through the attachment perspective, how to not to lose this comfort zone of attachment that one has, material attachment, and at the same time practice bhakti. So Prabhupada said, why don't you just deal with this once and for all? Whether it's a lust, a greed, or you know, delusion, or that is the other, envy. Let's just deal with this lifetime. Ask for Krishna's mercy. Damodar is very, especially in Kartik month, use those hot sales, the Black Friday or whatever it's called. Right now it's the time. It's Urja Vrata. Srimati Radharani herself, personally, bestowing mercy for somebody who's trying to please Lord Krishna in this month with simple vows like offering ghee lamp every day. You know, is it difficult? With the ghee lamp for free here in the temple, just live nearby, just come every day, offer lamp, and you'll please Krishna. As simple as that. Of course, you can do more vratas. This is the time to create proper spiritual habits. Stop watching Monday news. Wake up early, chant the morning prayers, chant the 10 daily rounds, do so many things. You can try and do that. Uh, do that little extra effort this month, and you'll see the result. The result will be you'll get a new taste, and the old taste will be gone. That's how powerful Srimati Radharani is. For her, as an internal potency of the Lord, is nothing difficult. She is the origin of all the energies in terms of uh, power. She's the powerhouse of love of Godhead. And she's happily giving this out if she sees some effort. It's one of her qualities. Otherwise, Mama Maya Durashaya. Yeah. Mama Maya Durashaya. It's very difficult to overcome this Daivi, this three modes of material nature. They tie us, it's ropes, we think we're doing this, there are two verses quoted here, but we are, in both verses it says that we are subjected to the three modes of material nature. We are under their influence, or the second verse says that we follow, enjoying the three modes of nature. Yeah, right, enjoying. Thinking that we're enjoying something. But what are we enjoying? Enjoying repeated birth, old age, disease, and death. That's what we, as a result, enjoy, even in mode of goodness. If you just got attached to the nice mode of goodness, less diseases, less pains, kind of figure it out how to live in harmony, according to the God's laws. And then what? This is not our home. You cannot really even exhibit you can. Devotional practice has there's no impediment, even in material world, to practice devotional service. But it's difficult at the same time, especially in Kali Yuga. Not just some Yuga, in Kali Yuga it's extremely difficult. So much impurities to enter our intelligence. So many wrong ideas, wrong desires. You have to do the management of desire constantly in order to refocus what are you actually doing. Enough to go to bed and you wake up and everything is a little corrupted, you have to restart it properly. Hear the transcendental sound and like that. All right, so we'll stop here. We'll have a few minutes for discussion, questions, comments. Sure.
Sorry. That's it. Yesterday, the last verse, where it says, unlimited and fun. You know, with the 8 verses for John Doerr, and it says unlimited pastime. And so it's, I don't know, it's kind of got the impression that like everyone, every existence, every being, every existence that here and has been, all these things are like pastimes of Krishna. Like even if they don't know Krishna, like these are all these pastimes. These are all leelas with Krishna. And so that no one is bereft of his grace or God's grace. It's God's play, so that even like we talk about, like in today, Radhas, or people have that separation. Every soul or being is having that fallout to Krishna, whether they realize it or not. And so it's, remember my husband told me one time that like the people come to the planet Earth because they want to enjoy being master or whatnot, but it's like from a timeline, like even one lifetime someone's a drunk lying on the street, some point they'll be with God, one with God, united again. So there's no judgment, there's no like or exclusion or like one is lower, one is higher. It's all unlimited. Like I like that expression, unlimited pastimes. Everything that's happening is a pastime with God or Krishna, Avila. So even if you think of someone in a materialistic frame, that there is suffering with that. And there is the soul that will always be calling out for the mercy. And it will be given, even though it may seem like it's not by your actions per se, like, oh, I'm doing this, so I will be liberated, or I will be. I mean, although yes, there are things like devotional service in a way to express that, like that connection, those chanting the name and things like that. Those are like gifts or boons for you to have that experience. But I'm talking a lot, but I remember once I had an experience of union with God, and that it's just love, and that even if I in a future lifetime I forget that connection or that state of being is always there. It's eternal. So yeah, so I just pray that even if I forget another lifetime, that's like, yeah, it doesn't matter, because I know there's that eternal connection to the good or to God. It's not gonna like it, even with my own misunderstandings of things. If I take other lives and I forget that experience, that connection is there, no matter what. It's always there with God and God.
Yeah. So for the online audience, it wasn't exactly a question. I mean, there was some notes of the question within the expression of thoughts, the manager, but I'll try to answer as I will be answering, hopefully. You'll understand. So in Bhagavad Gita, there's a verse 15:15 which says, Sarvasya cha mridi sanivishto matasmriti ganamapohonam cha vedaischa sarver aham eva vedyo vedanta krit vedavit eva chaham. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta and the knower of the Vedas. So, when you're saying everything is Krishna's Leela, I would be a bit careful stating that. Krishna's Leelas are Krishna's Leelas. What we are doing here in this material world, this is not Krishna's Leela. I mean, in terms of our us being eternally connected with the Lord, having the dormant love within the core of our heart as a spiritual soul that is a part and parcel, fragmental part and parcel of Krishna, intimately connected with the Lord. Srila Prabhupada sometimes gives an example like a finger connected to the body. Very intimate connection, because if you pinch it, you feel it. If you scratch it, you feel it. If you feel whatever happens in the little finger, you're concerned about its well-being, especially if it's wounded or something. If you cut it while making veggies or whatever. So very intimate connection is there. It may take eternity, to revive that connection, as you said, it may or may not. It depends on Krishna, how, at what point he will give that remembrance, forgetfulness, but how he is given that. That desire has to come from us. We chose our little tiny free will, as once Shachinand Maharaj shared the story. He was only 17 years old at the time, just becoming a brahmachari. He said, if God is, he asked Prabhupada a question during the lecture, if God is all good, why he has created this Maya, which separates us from the Lord and brings us so much suffering, injustice, and so forth? Prabhupada said, what is he asking? If the God is all good, why he has created Maya that separates us from the Lord? And he repeated it. Prabhupada said, what is he asking? Third time. And he looked at him and said, Krishna didn't create Maya, you created Maya. He had a cultural shock, not cultural shock like he had. He himself explains it. This was like I'm still traumatized by those words of Prabhupada that I have created Maya. But we did. Because we decided to become control, enjoy, and imitate God here on this planet, and we can find those traces of these ideas of being a benefactor, being a controller, being enjoyer. If we're honest. And once we acknowledge that, that's good. If we start seeing that, that's good. It means we're becoming healthier because we understood the diagnosis. So now let us offer all respects to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the origin of the soul, Sarakarna Karna. He has those eternal pastimes, Nanta Lilaya. And let us glorify that. He comes to show us that to attract us. He's all attractive. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains just one shloka, Atmarama verse 1.7.10, he explains this to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya in 64 different ways, just playing with those affixes and words. What does he prove in every single explanation? Unique explanation. Nobody can imitate Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Absolute scholar. He's a compiler of all the Vedanta and knower of the Vedas. He explains this in such a way that he proves the all attractiveness of the Lord in each and single explanation. So before that, 7 days he was listening to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the greatest logician, greatest Vedanta knower also, in an impersonal way. And he looks at him, listens to him, very like a gentleman, like 7 days, not sleeping, not eating, hearing. And he says, you young, do you actually understand what I'm talking about? Yeah, I understand clearly what you're saying, although I don't understand why you have to distort the meaning of Vedanta so much. Why you actually, there's a clear meaning, and you with your logic and with all your impersonal thing, you're just distorting the actual meaning. He says, what do you mean? So he gave him one verse, Atmarama Shloka, and explained it in 64 ways. Oh, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he got a spiritual revolution happening at that moment. You never realize that's how you can actually understand the Lord. So, but that desire also fructified in Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya at that moment to actually acknowledge that this is Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's
What was the verse?
1.7.10, Atmarama Shloka in Srimad Bhagavatam. So he gave the purport. Then he repeated it to Sanatana Goswami. So what we have in Srimad Bhagavatam, the purport of Prabhupada on this verse, is kind of like a summary of conversation with Sanatana Goswami later of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So there's some comments coming in also. But so my point is, since you didn't have any like specific question, but I tried to kind of hear what you're saying in terms of, yes, your relationship with the Lord will never be lost. Whatever you have accumulated in your spiritual bank account, so to say, in terms of love and exchanges with the Lord or desire to be with the Lord, that will stay with you and will trigger from the next birth if one has to happen. It doesn't have to happen. Prabhupada gave us all the facility to quit the game this lifetime successfully as a winner. Because that's his desire also. And desire of pure devotees, Krishna must adhere to. He actually is obliged to fulfill desires of his pure devotees. And Prabhupada desire. Everyone, that's the compassion of Vaishnava. He sees this suffering, he says, this is not necessary. In fact, when Srila Vyasadeva saw this whole creation, not just creation, when he meditated on the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he saw his beauty, he saw his pastimes, he saw his associates, he saw his planet, he saw his effulgence, and then he saw what was not harmonious sight, and that is those separated conditioned jivas suffering without the Lord hankering to be with them, they are suffering without him, and this just didn't look right. And that compassion was further driving him to start Srimad Bhagavatam, say, all of these have to rectify themselves. It's not natural for us, like a fish out of the water. It's jumping, it's alive, but it's suffering. It's not in the natural environment. So we better stop that lila, if you want to call it lila. It's actually not lila. Lila is only applicable to the pastimes of Supreme Personality of Godhead. But that suffering that we have brought on our heads, we have to stop as soon as possible. Like boarding on that ship of that vessel of the Vedas and the spiritual master, who's captain, who's getting us across this material existence, knee signs and ignorance. Let me just quickly read. There's a few comments, maybe questions. I don't know. Okay, Yashodef Prabhu saying, thank you, James. In the beginning, you mentioned study Shastra. What is the correct definition of study Shastra? I read daily, also read with some devotees, take notes of verses and purports that resonate, and share realizations with a few devotees consistently. But this is in my own interpretation. Any points you can share, Prabhu? Yes, James, this is good. Yes, His Holiness Devamrita Maharaj, I think he replied to your question last time. Everybody has different style. Reading books means just turn the pages, you study. You ask questions when you get in points where you're not clear what's this about. You ask senior Vaishnavas, you ask your aspiring spiritual master, you ask various Shiksha Gurus, devotees to hear different perspectives. And we're supposed to, even what we do right now is we're studying Shastra. We're not just reading it, we are sharing realizations, we're discussing, we're commenting, we're hearing questions, and we're trying to, from various angles, hear more and more about those unlimited, really. Like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, in Dhaka, the first classes that he studied, the series on the first shloka, 111, he gave 80 lectures. Each was 2 hours long, and he never repeated himself on one shloka. so let's study Shastra. Hare Krishna, thank you for Classman Madhurya Das Prabhu. Sort of piggybacking on James' question. When we seriously take up the practice of Bhakti Yoga and begin study Shastra, how does our intelligence start to change? How do we begin to understand something about Krishna without leaning on our own understanding? No, we are starting seeing Krishna through the lens of Shastra, Shastra Chakshu. We start seeing this world through the lens of the Shastra. For example, before you just lived in this material world, struggled, found happiness, and now you can see how this world is intertwined through the three modes of material natures. You can tell, oh, right now I'm in ignorance. A person cannot say in ignorance that he is in ignorance. Neither person can say he's in passion when he's in passion. But the devotee can say that. He can reflect and see, oh, I'm just being a little bit influenced right now by the mode of, slept, mode of ignorance, so I was too rushing somewhere, having that strong desire, which kind of blocked my intelligence for a while. A devotee can reflect and say, oh, I was under influence of mode of passion. So what? This is amazing, That's why it says, 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita Krishna starts to say that I'm going to tell you the knowledge which is far greater, far confidential, and so many received. What is it? Again, I shall declare to you this supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained the supreme perfection. Right? So by becoming fixed on this, in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation or disturbed at the time of dissolution. So Krishna gives us valuable instructions, and if we take them, if we actually study them, right, as we first quoted 1870, once you study it, you worship Krishna with your intelligence. It means your intelligence, buddhi, becomes very strong. And from that, you can see, based on those shlokas, you go through different situations in life, and then all of a sudden, those shlokas coming up, and Krishna helps you. Your intelligence is strong. You can deal with the situations. You will not lament or hanker so much. You will not be attached or detached. You become more detached. You become more philosophical. You'll be able to deal with very complex emotional situations, as we hear in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna says, Priyosime, who is the dear devotee to him? Samabhakta Priyosime. There's a whole list. There's at least 7 verses straight explaining all those varieties through which devotee goes through: fame, infamy, you know, suffering and distress, and this, that, the other. And because he's not too much disturbed by all of that, like, I'm very dear to him. But where is it coming from? From knowledge. That you know your spirit soul, this body, and like that. And you all really assimilate that knowledge by practicing it under the guidance. So hope, surely this helps. Okay. All right, so we have covered really a lot. As I'm hearing the bell, we have like 2 minutes left or 1 minute left. We can just summarize that Narada Muni is sharing his realization, his Vijnana. His Vijnana is based on the Vritti mark. That's why he's strongly pushing it to the sons of Haryashva, but also throughout the whole Bhagavatam to whoever he meets. Is so convinced because it's true, it worked for him perfectly. He's in love of Godhead. He's experienced it. He wants to share out of compassion. Srila Vyasadeva does the same. He's his Shishya, he's his disciple in that Leela, you can say. And yes, and so Srila Prabhupada in our lineage does the same as the founder Acharya. They gave us all the facilities to, finish up the business in this material world. Because Srila Prabhupada said, this place is not for ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen are in their eternal home. So that's where we're invited. Let's take this opportunity and go back home, back to God in this lifetime. Haribol. Hartika Vrata ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Go.
Haribol.
Oh, thank you. Then Nagari,
I don't know. Not know. Here, none of the thing a lot of. From The supreme controller, the conductor of the eternal will, the soul, the glistening earrings, and the to and fro, the manifesting himself on the the soul of the butter, that the always kept hanging on the rafters and stories. And then it quickly jumped up, ran and retreated, and appeared over the shoulder, but with the ultimate thought, so that supreme knowledge become a Promising his mother's whipping stick, he cried and rubbed his eyes again and again with his two lotus hair. His eyes were fearful and his breathing quick, and his loving shoulder bound with belly with ropes. He shivered and cried, his pearl necklace shook. To the supreme Lord, Sri Damodar, who was bound with his devotee's love, not the Mary's husband.
Drown in consistent. You the devotees who are attracted only to the benefit of self-practicing down. The Lord directed, I am concerned and capable to enjoy and relation to the Supreme Lord Congress. He had people
Lord, do not please you, show going through all that emphasis, nor in any doing. The only prayers that are sharp and pastels, they constantly fear. The Lord of the is simply the should be out the pastime every. Oh, and she said your evangelist space because it's certain about a lot of one point in which travel does the millions of the very different popular areas. Issues.
The book of the talks. We didn't see that some there and even not work to stand streets. Indication points in the it's listening and seeing and the information. Although the entire universe is created by the Lord one, we were born in your athlete, which we found on the road time of showing. This road by our humble basin. I welcome our dedicated to the most beloved to your mother, and your only. First part is right. Why not? Yeah, so because you slipping water the weakness. Yes, that's just the natural. You're in a 16. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sure. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, actually, I sense. Yes, that one. Probably have. Well, then it's not, I'm behaving for being actually the you say that, yeah, the young that's oh, that's how I will. But yes, yeah, I think not. Really good. And again, guys, what? So that sounds like that. Yes.